Deb, have your ears been burning?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Paul?
Good. Uh, Evelyn was just telling me what happened to you.
Oh, yeah, I got my wound.
You know, we went to Mexico last Christmas and I'd never been there. My kids kind of put together a shoestring, fly by the seat of their pants, Playa de Carmen, Cancun a little bit, uh, Tulum. Anyway, I had a wonderful time. I really, really just loved it. I flew my drone down there. And so Evelyn, we were just talking. She said, "Did you hear what happened to Deb?" I said, "Well, I saw a, I'm trying to stay off of Facebook because it's just a trap for me. My behavior is just not real good with regards to the political situation, and
Yep, I get that.
I just gotta get away from it. But anyway, the other night I saw a picture of Mel sitting somewhere, and I read the caption, but I didn't dig into it. So Evelyn says you. you were in a hurry. That's the theme of your post. That you, I said to Evelyn, and she told me, what happened and the gate falling on you and everything. We stayed in a place. We were staying in Airbnb things, I guess. And I remember one of our little places had a big iron gate on it too. And my memory took me there. And then, I said the silliest thing to Evelyn. I said, gosh, you just come from a wonderful dinner with your sister. I said, Evelyn, I wonder what she had. And then we started talking about surgery. And Evelyn said, why is it that the night before planned surgery, they insist that we not eat?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I wonder how quickly Deb got into surgery. And I said, well, even if it was quick, they're probably just more careful because they don't want you to vomit inside of your lungs, I think. I think that's why they don't want us to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was a long time because I got there at about 10 in the morning and I didn't eat till the next day at 9 in the morning because I had the surgery at 6 at night. So yeah, it was a long time to go without food.
Well, I
But
just,
that's it. He said you can't have food within so many hours of surgery. So,
I said to
Okay.
Evelyn,
and I had a hard boiled egg.
hey, Blake, famous words in broadcasting. You're muted. Anyway, Deb, I'm
I
so
apologize,
sorry.
my video was muted. Sorry about that. I'm good. How are you?
That's okay.
Well,
Doing
Blake, I'm going to change you to host so you have complete control, okay?
all right, Deb. Thanks. I don't know if you had sent an email before, but I didn't see it.
I did. I sent
I had
last
I had
night.
somebody here in
Again.
Chicago, actually still a member down there, over there, and she kept saying, "I hear you're teaching a class. Send me the link." I said, "I don't have it yet." So it's all
Sorry,
good.
I sent it. I put it in all our newsletters for every week, and then I sent it to you last night because Janelle said you hadn't gotten it. So
No, it's perfectly fine. I figured.
and today I posted it on Facebook. So
Oh, that's my problem. I don't look at Facebook enough. That's a rabbit hole I can't afford to get into.
well, as Paul was saying, that's sometimes we have to distance ourselves from it. I think I'm about needing to. I've upset one of my cousins and I didn't mean to do that. So it's time
Uh-oh.
to lay back.
There she is right there, actually. Hello, Becky. Don't say anything.
She's
Just
the one
kidding.
that got it on Facebook. I saw it.
I told Becky she could come, but she couldn't say anything. Well, actually, I told her it was limited to members of Lamoni Heartland, and then she reminded me that she is one. So
There you go.
I can't shake her.
Well,
Janelle,
Deb, I
how are you? I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
was just going to ask Deb, how you feeling, Deb, overall?
I'm feeling good. I really haven't experienced much pain at all. So that's been fortunate. For
Yeah.
Blake, I
All
broke
I'm
my
going to
wrist
say, I
this
don't know
week.
what's going on. What happened?
You
I
broke
broke
her
my
wrist.
wrist. I fought with a gate in gate one.
Ah,
So it's
I'd
your,
have
so it's your,
surgery down here in Mexico.
so it's your left hand.
It's my left hand. Thank
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yikes.
and you were in Mexico?
Yeah.
Wow.
Had wonderful health care. People were wonderful. for the surgery, all the people we saw, the doctors and an overnight stay in the hospital, it was like $10,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. Our insurance will cover most of it, but I'm thinking, you know, it'd be triple that in the States. So
Right.
there you go. People are coming in.
It's a very quiet group.
We are. I think everybody's muted except Janelle, you and I.
That would explain it.
We want to start right at 7. Janelle, do you want to do an introduction of Blake and then
Sure.
in about 2 minutes, and then I'll shut my mic off and Blake has full control.
Okay. I'll shut
This
my
is Jim
mic off
McKinney.
afterwards too. Hi, Jim.
This is Jim McKinney. I'd like to say hi to Blake.
Oh, hi, Jim McKinney.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm under the weather at the moment, but I'm okay.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Lots of things going around right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the COVID type, but it's sure attacking my head and my throat. So I'll be quiet for the rest of the time and just listen.
How are things in Chicago, Blake?
They are doing pretty well. It's just cold and wet here today, at least where I am. I'm not sure about where Becky is. She's a little farther south. We have not had as much snow here this year as my hometown of Pensacola, Florida had last week, but
Wow.
and I'm okay with that. Except that I'm headed there in a couple of weeks, and I hope they're over it. I couldn't believe it. The record was set in 1895 prior to last Tuesday, and it was for 3 inches. And they got 7.9 inches last Tuesday.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow, sir.
The world shut down.
That's more than we've had all winter.
Right? That's saying a lot.
Yeah, it is.
one of wait another minute. So one of the funny stories. So my mother, bless her heart, she is got onset of dementia and has some vision issues, that kind of thing. My sister moved in with her, so my sister's mid-50s and has never really been around snow, and so she was really excited and she really wanted to go out and make a snow angel. So she gets my mother up. Mom can walk around, do fine, whatever. Hands her the phone and says, "Okay, Mom, I have the photo set. I'm going to run out into the snow, lay down in the snow, and make a snow angel. Take a picture quick, and then I'm going to run in." And so my sister, she turns away. She runs out into the snow. She gets down in the snow. She looks back at the door, and my mom is nowhere to be found.
Oh, no.
And so she said she was screaming, "Sandra!" Finally, my mother shows back up at the door and she's putting on a jacket. She says, "Well, I was kind of cold, so I thought I would put a jacket on." So my sister got up out of the snow, came back, took the camera, took a picture of the snow angel without her in it, and that was it. Oh, crazy, crazy.
Best laid plans.
Yep. Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome Blake Smith tonight. He's volunteered to share with us information that he talked to us about at our first, well, my first SALT experience in February, I believe. Maybe October. Was it February, right?
I think it was,
February
yes.
24. February 24. And the other SALT participants had said, we need to get this out to more people. More people need to hear this in our congregations. So I've been, well, Blake and I have gone back and forth on and off, trying to make this happen. And lo and behold, tonight's the night. So it's a good thing. It's really, I think it's going to be really great information. And I really thank you, Blake, for sharing with us. And I'm going to turn things over to you. Welcome.
Thanks, Janelle. And it's really good to be with you guys and to see some familiar faces and names. It's been a little bit of a time since I was in Lamoni Heartland. I was just talking with a former student who has now been called to the Council of 12, that it's been 20 years since we left there. So it's hard to believe it's been that long. I am glad to be with you guys tonight, and I hope that I have arranged this material. I think when we were at the retreat that Janelle was speaking of, it wasn't actually our original intent to talk about this information, but when we realized how necessary it was, we kind of veered that way. And so that was kind of off the cuff, and so I've spent some time putting it together, hopefully in a way that will make sense. A lot of this material, in terms of what is and isn't allowed in general with regards to copyright, is available on the church website. And I'll be talking about where to find that in just a little bit. But I'm also going to talk about some of the licensing that is available, what's covered, what's not covered, those types of things. If you have questions during our time together, I'm going to ask, I think this is just for the sake of having the record of it for Janelle and Deb and whoever they might share this with beyond tonight. If you would put your question in the chat, so there will be a transcript of it. Of course, they could also transcribe the video itself, but if you put it in there, that would be helpful. It also help me to be able to look at them and make sure that I am able to cover the things. And as a secondary piece, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand using the raise hand option in Zoom, what that does for me is it will put you up in the top left corner of my screen. So while I'm watching the presentation and the notes, I can also see that there is someone wanting to ask a question. And we'll just try to handle those as they come along. I will tell you that some of the questions might be answered before long. So I might at some point say, well, we're going to get to that in just a minute. And I'll just tell you that now so it doesn't sound rude when I do it if I need to. But of course, if it's something that is not planned to be covered, I'll go ahead and answer that if I can. So we're going to be talking about using copyrighted material in worship. And there will also be some comments when we talk about these pieces that will refer to things that happen outside of worship as well. But our primary focus will be how do we follow copyright law and stay within the ethical boundaries of that as we plan and do worship with others. So the first thing I want to talk about is the religious services exemption. I hear people talk about, well, we're a religious organization, so we're exempt anyway, right? So we don't have to worry about that. And that's partially true. There are some things that we do not have to worry about, but there are actually more things that are not covered by the religious services exemption than are covered. So in the religious services exemption, this is what it says. The religious services exemption exempts churches from liability for the performance of non-dramatic literary or musical work, or the dramatico-musical work of a religious nature, or display of a work in the course of services at a place of worship or other religious assembly. I want to break that down just a little bit for us. And so the first is the non-dramatic literary or musical work. So in the course of worship, we can use poetry, read poetry or prose, or sing music. So that is when we talk about the performance, a lot of times we think about a band or a musical group, but the performance of the music or the reading of poetry is all included there. The second part is the dramatico-musical work. And so plays, singing of the music, those kinds of things are included in that. Where the catch is that they must be done in the course of services. And I did some checking because there are some places that would say, if you advertise your worship at 11 o'clock and that it runs from 11 to 12, then only the things you do between 11 and 12 would be included. We in Chicago Mission Center, we have a weekly worship hybrid online through Zoom called CMC Sunday. And we typically start our prelude at 10 minutes to the hour. That is all part of the worship preparation and is considered part of the worship. So just in case that question arises, if it's part of and connected to your worship, then it would be included. If you have music playing in your foyer before worship that is just while people gather, that is not included with the religious service exemption. And finally, probably the most important part, again, that this be done in the course of the services. Now, it does say that it be done at a place of worship or other religious assembly. So that just means if you worship in a school, or if you worship in a storefront, or if you happen to be a part of a mega church out there in Lamoni Heartland that's meeting in a stadium or auditorium, as long as you're doing it in worship, then that is included by the religious services exemption. That is simply the regular operation of worship. So singing your hymns and that kind of thing. It does not necessarily cover all of the music and the playing of the music, and we'll get to that. What is not included, again, are things outside of worship. So I talked about playing music in the entryway in the foyer as people are gathering, that type of thing. It wouldn't cover if you're having a church picnic. It wouldn't cover if you're having a festival, or at your fellowship gatherings, a game night, or youth events that happen on Saturdays or throughout the week or Sunday afternoons, whenever they are. And remember, we're talking just about the religious services exemption. So we're going to find ways. I'll be talking about ways that you can use music in these settings, but the religious services exemption does not cover things done outside of worship. So just make sure, let me just do a real quick check-in. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, but just do a check-in and see if there's anybody, if that raises questions for anyone before we go into the hymnal and what we need to know about copyrights in the hymnal. All right, I'm not seeing, oh, I do see a hand, Paul.
So from time to time, we will, by way of Zoom, record the service. Right now, we're just taking the sermon and editing that out of the full hour and putting, it stays on our well, we post it to our Facebook page. But if we were to ever like a service, we've had people that perform lately, and you like the guitar and the music, the vocals. And if you chose to post that a link to that entire service to sit on your Facebook page, would we be in violation because someone would view that maybe on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday outside the live hour of worship?
It's a great question, Paul. And the answer to that would be that there are ways that you can do that. And we'll cover that when we talk about the particular licenses. If you are operating without a license, if you are just doing your normal worship, you're recording them, you could take the sermon and put that on your personal website, perhaps even on your Facebook page, as long as there's no other, you'd need to be careful about what the sermon content was. So if your preacher is using extended clips from even written works, or if they use a video or they use a song as part of their sermon, then you would not be able to use that on your Facebook without the possibility, certainly without licenses. With licenses, it would depend, and that gets kind of complicated. So we'll talk about that then. So I would say, yes, you can post the sermon. That's as long as you have obviously the preacher's permission, and that it doesn't include anything other than the preacher speaking with their own content. If you get into the other things, then you do run into issues. And I will say just now, I'll probably cover it again, but anytime you're posting something, it is better and safer to post it on your own website, if you can, rather than Facebook or YouTube, unless you're very clear about what the service and terms and agreements are for those sites. They can separately determine that something is a copyright violation if it's not documented correctly, if you're not putting all of your license numbers in the right place. So you can do that with the right licenses, but it gets complicated there as well, and you need to be familiar with Facebook's terms of use, and same thing with YouTube or any other platform that you're going to put it on. I have been advised that the best way to do that, if you're going to do that, and there are licenses that will cover that, you should probably do it on your own website. Does that help?
Well, I'm a little confused because we felt pretty good a couple of years ago of creating, to get more with the world of social media. We created a Lamoni Big Church Facebook page. We get pretty good traffic there.
Okay.
And that's where we also have a YouTube channel now too. And so, I've never really thought about just posting it to the Paul Davis Facebook page. I want people in the Decatur County area to get more and more familiar with what the Lamoni Big Church is doing. But I think we pay a pretty good fee. I got to talk to Linda Robinson, because I think every year a bill comes across the pastor's desk that we approve, and I think it's a couple $100 for a music material license. I'll have to dig into that.
So just a couple things, Paul. First of all, when I say on your website, I didn't mean the Paul Davis website. It would be the Community of Christ Lamoni Heartland website, some centralized location, just something that you control, so the terms and conditions of use are set by you versus someone else. It sounds to me like, and I don't know what you're paying for, but it sounds like you're paying for one of the licenses that I mentioned would allow you to post those in other places. So if you have those licenses, and when we get to those, you may recognize them, and that may additionally answer your question. There are licenses available that will allow you to post material. There's some material that's still excluded, and we'll talk about that. But generally, if you're using Creative Works under the terms and conditions of the license that you have, and you have the right license to use it, to put it online, you have to have a streaming license. You can't just have like a basic CCLI license. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's a great question. And if we haven't answered it or cleared up the confusion when we get to the licenses, please let me know. Okay, yes, Frank, we got a hand up.
Yeah. I was wondering about the worship services exemption. It talks about you're covered in your place of worship. That would not include streaming, would it?
That is correct. It's only what takes place in your building.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Community of Christ Sings, because I also hear from time to time the misunderstanding that if it's in the hymnal, we have permission to use it no matter what. We can reprint it, we can post it on the screen, we can do all of these things with it, and that is also not necessarily the case. So let's talk a little bit about that. Whoops, just a second. So I want to draw your attention. I don't know how many of you are have access to online ministry on our ministry tools, which is a sub page, kind of an internal page for Community of Christ. Anybody can get access to it. It does require that you have a sign in, but I'm going to switch to that page here so that you can see here. Let's see. I have to turn off my thing and let me go to, so our ministry tools is the website. And when you're on the Community of Christ website, in the top right corner of the website, you'll see this link to our ministry tools into Herald House. I don't want to just assume that everybody knows where that is. So you would go to our ministry tools. If you are already logged in, you can go to current users. If you are not, you would need to request access, and there is a process. I think it's gotten a little faster than it was when it first began. But on the current users website, if you go to, this is what the Our Ministry Tools page looks like. And I don't have access to see what you're seeing, so I just want to make sure, is everybody seeing the Our Ministry Tools website? Is that?
No.
It's not sharing. All right, it should be. So let me switch my sharing. I'll reshare. Should be able to switch back and forth with sharing without having to change it, but how about now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm on the Our Ministry Tools website. I'll go back one step just to show you what it looks like. This is again in the top right corner of the website on the Community of Christ website. I've already switched. So I'm on the entry to Our Ministry Tools, but those are in the right-hand corner. I have access. If you don't, you would use the request access. I go to current users. This is the Our Ministries tool website. And under administrative, I have to come down here, you will see a whole list of copyright a whole section on copyrights, which you'll find some of the information that we're sharing tonight. And under that list, there's the hymn and music copyright. When you do that, you will be taken to a page that has moved way over. Here we go. You will find a link to a list of all of the hymns. Now, you can go in the back of the hymnal and find a list of copyrights, but that's a little more difficult to navigate. This is very user-friendly. It's a spreadsheet with every hymn listed. And at the top, you'll see that the first column, this is divided by, you've got first got the title of the hymn, you got the number of the hymn, the title of the hymn, the text, and if there is a license associated with the words of the hymn, and then if there is a license that is connected to the tune of the work. So, and this is an important note that'll help understand later when we're talking about some of the other license. With every hymn, there may be multiple copyright owners. A lot of them are the same, but some of them may have multiple copyright owners. You will see as we go down this list that there are some that there are some there that are included and some that are not. Now we're going to be talking about licenses in a few minutes. You'll see a couple of different abbreviations here. The most common on this you will see are CCLI and OL. That's the CCLI license and the one license. One license is a license that all of us should have if you are projecting or reprinting the word. So let me just tell you what, when we talk about reprint license, we're going to get to the licenses. That covers either making copies of the hymns, writing the lyrics out, providing just the lyrics, or anything that you project on a screen. If you project it onto the screen, that is considered reprinting. And so if you're doing that, then you need to have these licenses or the license that covers the hymns that you are using. The most common license for that is one license, and the most common license for contemporary Christian music is the CCLI, but I'll get into that a little bit more. I want to give us some examples here as we go down this. If we look at this, and I'm going to go to hymn 143, I've chosen some that are popular and some that may not be used as much. This is a very popular hymn, Morning Has Broken. And you will notice that the words of the song are not covered under a CCLI or one license. The tune is, but to use the words, we do not have permission. Even if you have a CCLI or one license, you would need to get additional permission to use the words, to reprint the words of that hymn. Now you might be saying, well, we do that all the time. We're a small church in Western Iowa. What are the chances? Well, I would just simply say to you that not only is it illegal, it would be unethical. We do believe in the worth of all persons and the dignity that goes along with that. And so using things fairly so that the creators get credit for it is something that we ought to do. So in this case, with Morning Has Broken, the tune is covered, but the words are not. What World Church has done here is, as much as possible throughout, as the hymn committee, is to put where you can go to get permissions to use the words to the hymn. Even though you can use the music, you need the permission for the words. So this is where you would go to get that. And they are active links. You do have to hit Control and then click on them. And what I found when I went to that, let's see if it's going to come up here. All right. I came to Harold Ober and Associates, and then there is an address that you can either mail to get permission, you can call the number, or you can send an email. I believe that the site itself comes up if you go there, and it is not a legitimate site. So I took the information and put in Harold Ober Associates. So it might require some additional digging, and I was able to find their website just for purposes of tonight. And then on that, if I go to the top right corner, usually if you track it down far enough, you can find out what is required to get permissions. And here is the site. It gives you an email address up here at the top where you can email and get the permissions to use the hymn. Some people might say, no problem, you can use it. Thanks for asking. There could possibly be a request for a small fee to use the license to pay. I don't believe that for Morning Has Broken there was a fee. Our person here locally, we have used that hymn, and I don't remember getting a bill for it. So I'm assuming, hopefully rightly, that there was no charge for that. Let me see here. I'm sorry. My Zoom controls were covering up the thing. Okay, so that is one. Another example, hymn number 68. That may be one that you are or are not familiar with. It's a hymn called The Church's Life. We have sung that here. In this case, you will note that the words are covered by one license, but the tune is not. So here we have a different situation. And they have, again, the Covenant Church, which is actually located in the Chicagoland area, but they hold the rights to the tune. In that case, and I'm going to switch back now to my other piece here. Let me just 1 second. All right. And share again. It was much easier when it was going back and forth without having to change. All right. So here we have the Church's Life. Again, that's CCS 68. We have the words are covered, but the tune is not. By following the link, I was able to get some additional information about where I might seek permissions for that. Basically, when we have a situation with a hymn that the words are covered, but the tune is not, we have a couple of options. The first option would be to pursue getting permission to use the words along, to use the tune along with the words. The second would be to find an alternate tune. I don't, again, want to assume that everybody knows how to do that, but there is a tune index, a metrical index also. The easiest way to find an alternate is to use the metric index in the back of the hymnal. So if you go to the hymn that you have, and I'm sorry, I don't have pictures of the hymnal on the presentation, but when you open your hymnal, if you look in the bottom right corner of any of the hymns, it will give you the meter for the hymn. Number 68, the meter is 8787887. You take that number, go to the metric index in the back of the hymnal, and look up that meter and find out if there are other tunes that use the same meter. In this case, there actually is one, but I will tell you that it would not be an appropriate one to use because it breaks the words up in a really funny way that does not sound natural to the singing. But in this case, again, there is an alternate tune. So you can always find an alternate tune and sing the hymn to a tune that is covered by your license. Or, of course, your last option then is to just find another hymn. whichever you would want to do. All right. The third situation would be a hymn that is neither covered by words or tune. And one of those examples would be hymn number 274. The hymn there is God We Gather as Your People. If you have not used that in your worship, it is an absolutely gorgeous tune. It is also a video that is available from the Beyond the Walls curated list. So it is available there. Here's what I want to caution you on that. One of the things that we talk about with videos that we can use, typically, we can use anything that has been produced by Community of Christ. We have a blanket permission to use anything that you might find on the Missional Leaders website or on the church website. If it's on YouTube, you may have difficulty downloading it from YouTube. YouTube is putting in more and more restrictions, making it more difficult to download without a premium prescription. There are some video downloaders that still seem to work. So even church videos may be hard to get if they are on YouTube. But just because we've also been given general blanket permission to use those YouTube videos that are put on the Beyond the Walls list, if you can get them. Now, at one point, Beyond the Walls sold a thumb drive, I believe, with all of their videos, but that is no longer available on their website as far as I can tell. But you can, if you can manage to get the videos from the website, you can use them. However, I would highly recommend that you do the same check for the usage rights of the hymn instead of just taking the hymn and assuming because Beyond the Walls has done it, that you have the rights to use it. An example is this hymn. They do have a video for number 274, God, We Gather as Your People. But as you can see, that is not covered by any of the licenses that are readily available for church use. In that case, you need to go to Welcome Song Music, which is actually a little hard to find. But if you go to the David Lohman Music Facebook page, in this case, you will find out that he has given a blanket permission to use any of his music. So that's fine, but we wouldn't know that without checking. In this case, this is a Beyond the Walls video that is there that you can use, but not because Beyond the Walls has given you permission to use it. It's because David Lohman has given you permission to use the music and the lyrics. Does that make sense? Any questions? This has been a lot of information. I've been talking here for a little bit. Let me stop and get a general sense if there's any questions. I know it's a lot of info. All right. Just want to quickly then give you an example of a few more hymns where neither the words nor the tune are included in the licenses that we will talk about, and you may be surprised by a few of them because two of them at least are ones that I have found to be used quite regularly across the church. And those are Peace, Salam, Shalom, which is owned by Emma's Revolution. And they did mention this when this was first introduced to the church, that the church had the rights to use it. They worked very closely actually with Emma's Revolution to create the video that was created, but you do need to get permission from them to use it beyond that point. Another one is Weave Us Together. That is one that I hear often. There is a website available on that spreadsheet that I showed you that would take you to roachcrow.com to get permission to use that hymn. Again, we're only needing permission to use these hymns if we are reprinting them or projecting them. If you're singing them from the hymnal, then the permission to use them is inherent. As long as you're not copying them in any fashion, you are able to use them. Where can we get the spreadsheet? Okay, let me jump back to that slide. I showed you manually, but let me put this, I have a slide for it. If you go to Our Ministry Tools, go to the Administrative drop-down list, find the Copyright section, which is a little to the right. Scroll down or go down to the Hymn and Music Copyright. When you click on that, there'll be some text, and there is a link in the text there that will take you to the CCS applicable copyright. Let me see if there's any chance I can switch to that without having to redo everything. Can you see my website? Did it switch to the spreadsheet? I'm seeing no. Okay.
No.
All right. Let me switch share again real quick so I can just walk you through that. Let me see. All right, I'm going to go. All right, you see the spreadsheet now? So we are going to, I am going to go back to Our Ministry Tools. So this is the Our Ministry Tools website. I'm going to go to the Administrative drop-down menu, go over to Copyright, down to the Hymn and Music Copyright, and click on that. And when you scroll down, you'll have some information about licenses. And down here in the questions and answers that legal has put together is a spreadsheet available showing which hymns are covered by which license. The answer is yes. And there is a link there that will take you directly to the list. Right? There is also a question about getting access to the slideshow after we're done. Well, it's not a slideshow. It is a worship media show. I believe that I can send a copy of that. I don't know. I've never tried to print the slides from it. I will try to do that. I'm more than happy to share the information, but I did not do this in PowerPoint. This is done in a media app that we have that we use in Chicago Mission Center, and I'll be talking about that briefly at the end as well. But the answer is yes, I'll give you access to it. I may have to switch it to make it possible to print. So good question. Make sure I'm
Blake?
just yes.
This is Deb. We will post this video, if it's okay with you, to our YouTube channel for Lamoni Heartland.
Yes,
And
it
I
is
will put
okay.
that link out to
Okay.
newsletter.
Yeah, there will be no
That way, it's
copyrighted
another way to
material in
access
this.
it.
Yeah, no copyrighted
Okay.
material in this that would prohibit you from using it on the YouTube channel. So
Okay.
that would be absolutely fine. All right, now I'm going to switch my share back once again to, all right. Okay. Now you see CCS applicable copyright licenses. I'm going to switch the page that we're on, but I just want to see if you can get to that. All right. Any other questions about hymnal? So no, well, okay, here's a question. There's a question here. I'm sorry, I scrolled back up for a second. The picnic is not a worship area. So the point would be if you are having worship in a park, then you would be covered by the licenses that we will talk about. And the religious exemption, services exemption. If you are having worship, the point would be if you're just having a picnic and you're playing music at the picnic, then your religious services exemption does not apply. Hopefully that answers that question.
That did. Thanks, Blake.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And then what if there were a time that music was used during the Sunday study meeting time, would that include exemptions? It would not be included in the worship services exemption, the religious services exemption. You would need to have the licenses for that usage. Any other questions about hymns or something that we've talked about before I move? All right, Frank has downloaded the licensing spreadsheet. You can send the link to chat through chat if you'd like. If not, at least it will be there for either Janelle or Deb to grab and be able to send that out as well.
I
That
tried, but your computer option was nullified. I believe you may have that option
Well,
blocked.
I don't have it blocked. Deb, do you know if the sharing in chat is blocked?
And not that I'm aware of, but we can work on that because I have that list downloaded on my computer
Okay,
and I'm part of our ministry. So I can work with Frank to get it uploaded to wherever or send it out to people. I'll send it out to the pastor.
perfect. All right. All right, so just real quickly, because I kind of got sidetracked by the question, to get to that question. Any other questions about the material so far or about hymns before we move on? Not seeing anybody. Not seeing anything coming up in the chat. So let's now talk about our licenses. And since we've talked about hymns, I'm going to start with the one license. It's at onelicense.net. And again, the one license covers several thousand hymn publishers and writers, authors. I'm going to show you that site. Unfortunately, I apologize for this not swapping back in the share as easily as I thought it would. But I am going to now my mouse is being weird. Let me turn this off. Stop share. Go back to sharing the website so I can show you their website in case some of you are probably already accessing it. That's fine. But I have the One License website here. When you go to onelicense.net, you can easily get to a list of the publishers. So this is the One License website. But you can select the music you want to see, report the music, and get support here at this site. It is important that you understand that with both the CCLI and the One License, there is a reporting requirement. Now, I will tell you that we forgot for a long period, so they don't come after you if you don't. The reason for reporting is it doesn't, besides the fact of getting you legally covered so that nobody can prosecute you for using the material, you're paying for a license. The purpose for you paying for a license is so that the creators of the material will get adequate royalties. So it's really important that on a monthly basis, you don't have to do it every week, but you keep track of the hymns that you're using and report those through One License or CCLI, depending on which license you're utilizing for the particular piece, and let them know that you used it so that then the creators, the composers, the writers get credit for their work being used. That's why they're in the collaborative to begin with, so that it makes it easier for people to use their material, but also gives them some remuneration for that. So in this case, we're going to go then to, and that's real easy on this site. At the top of the page, there's a report usage, and it's very easy to do. We want to search the songs. You can type in a song here. Let's just put in Great and marvelous. We're going to search that, and here are a list of great and marvelous versions that are covered by the site. And if you look, you will see they are by different arrangers. They're not all by the same. The reason that's important is if you are using the license and you purchase the license, wonderful. You want to use a version of the hymn, you need to make sure that the version you're using is covered. The hymn itself might be covered, but it might be an arrangement by someone else. In that case, you need to use the version by the covered arranger or composer. Does that make, hopefully that makes sense. It's really important, especially in a case like this where you see we've got a whole page. I don't know exactly how many that are on there, but you'll see that in CCLI as well, where there may be multiple versions of a piece of music. You just need to make sure again that the one you are wanting to use is the version that's covered. So it's really, really easy then to find those. You can search by the contributor, you can search by the publisher, you can search by the tune, the meter, the language. So here's a list of all the publishers that are covered. You see it's quite extensive. So most hymns are covered one way or the other, but that is your one license. Now, I'm going to need to switch back here real quickly. So give me just 1 second. All right. And sharing here. So what is covered? This license, the one license, gives you unlimited permission to reprint music owned by all of the member publishers. If they're on that list that I just scrolled through, it gives you unlimited permission to reprint that music. Again, remember that reprinting not only means a physical reprinting or copying of the music, or the lyrics, but also the projection of those lyrics onto the screen, even if it's only in-house. One, just again, and just to make the distinction, religious services exemption gives you permission to gather in your worship space and sing out of the hymnal. Great. If you're going to project the lyrics onto the screen, you're no longer covered by the religious services exemption. You need to have a license that allows you to reprint. So that is where one license comes in. It's also where the basic CCLI license comes in. There is an extra add-on to both services for podcast and streaming. So basically you have 3 levels. You have the religious services exemption, again, that covers simply doing worship as we used to do it before the pandemic, some even farther back than that, but that's coming in, doing your worship, singing the hymns out of the hymnal that you have, no extra music, and doing that. Then you can get the one license, which allows you then to project or to reprint that music. If you are streaming or broadcasting or posting on the web, your worship services recorded, you have to have the streaming or podcast license. It is not enough to just have one license. One license in and of itself only covers reprint. The performance and streaming of the music that is, even if it's covered by one license, requires that you have the streaming podcast bundle. All right, is that absolutely clear for everybody? I'm seeing some yes shakes. Great. Okay. That gets a little bit back to Paul's question about using it online. And so that is the step that you need to take there, is to get the additional add-on to the basic license. Just so you get an idea of the cost for one license, for 0 to 25 people, it is $124. 26 to 100, it goes up to $216. And you'll see in the far right column there that the add-on, so it's $124 for one license, an additional $74, so $198 a year to be able to stream your items that are covered by one license or to post them on the website. And again, that is annual. Here's the question that you may have, and that is that how do you determine, the question would be, how do I determine how many people? If I'm putting this online, I have no idea how many people are going to view this. How do I do it in a way that is fair? I have spoken with both One License and CCLI. That number is based on the number of people in your pew viewing it during worship. They do not expect you to add the numbers who might watch it later on. That helps me, for instance, in Chicago Mission Center, because in the location that I am broadcasting from, there is never more than 25 people. Now, we have made a decision to buy the 26 to 100 because we have multiple congregations that meet together. And technically in the pews, we have more than 25 people. The rest are either online from various locations or watch it after because they've asked for a recording. So you will need to decide what is right for you. But again, you do not have to figure out how many people are watching it randomly. It is simply how many people are watching the live performance of the creative works. Okay? So that actually helps you because you might have hundreds of people that watch it over time, but you're only responsible for the initial viewers. Very easy to follow and to purchase the license. It's all on the same page there. All right. Now we're going to move into the rest of the licenses. And that is now they are partnering together. So these are not all owned by the same company, but CCLI has partnered with the other providers of several of the more prominent licenses. And so that you can get to them by going to ccli.com and asking about all their licenses. What you'll get is this page that you're seeing on the screen now that outlines the different licenses. You'll see that there's the church copyright license. That is your CCLI license. There's the CCLI streaming license and the Streaming Plus license. We'll be talking about the differences. There's the church video license, which you might know as the CVLI license. There's a rehearsal license, and then there's two new licenses. One is the Perform Music license, and one is the Worship Cast license. I'm going to step away from the music for just a minute and cover videos, and then we'll get back to the rest of the music licenses. So the video license is CVLI. The reason I think it's important for us to spend a couple of minutes on this is because CVLI, I hear people say, well, we've got the CVLI license, so we can play anything we want to. We can play any videos. Just like the One license and the CCLI license, CVLI license includes certain producers. Now, I understand that there are over 400,000 producers. It's insane, the number. And anything that is on their website, if you have their license, you are allowed to play in your worship. As far as I know, they are not allowed to be played for broadcast. I could be wrong on that. I am not as familiar with the CVLI license. I know about the things that it covers. I'm not sure what all might be excluded. So let's look at what it covers. Church video license, I said 400,000 and 400 plus producers, sorry. It's still a good license, but it provides legal permission for churches and organizations to publicly show movies and movie scenes. It's actually a very good site. If you use that, if your speakers like to use clips that are engaging, that might engage multiple generations, they do a wonderful job not only of making those available, but putting them by category. So you can say, oh, I want something on love, or I want something on peace. and it will give you a list of the clips that they already have pulled from movies and television shows that illustrate those topics. And they provide what is called Screen View. And again, that is what gives you that access to the 13,000 plus movie scenes, ideas, views, and downloads. Let's take a look at that here, which will require another screen switch. Sorry that it's doing that. We have to do it that way. Let's see. We're going to fire the window. And, oh, no, I don't want to do the fire window. Sorry. I need to stop that. Got it backwards here. Okay, let's go back to the website share. Now I'm going to go over to CVLI, and this is the CVLI website, cvli.com. And you need to make sure you're on the US page, not the UK page. And you can look at all of this without having a license. So if you'd like to just explore and see what kinds of things are covered, you can do that without obligating yourself. You can do the same thing with the CCLI, excuse me, a lot of acronyms. These people must have been RLDS to begin with. So the CCLI license, you can also look up songs when you go to play a clip of it, or if you want to find out more information about a song, then you would need to have a license. It will ask you to sign in. But here we can go to Screen View, which is their the location where they share their pieces, and you see here are movies that are covered. You can view it by theme. So here are all the themes. So let's say I'm having a service on kindness and I want to use a clip. Here's a list of clips from movies and like I said, other television shows that you, if you have the license, are free to download and use in your worship. I do not have that license, so I would not be able to get beyond this page, but that gives you an idea of the content. Again, this is just a list of the themes, and each theme has many, many clips inside of it. So a very good license to have if you're using videos. Like I said, we do not use videos. We have subscribed to some other sources that are focused more specifically on worship. But so that's a preference thing, depending again on your usage. All right, we're going to switch back one more time, at least one more time. Here we go. All right. Any questions on CVLI license before we move forward?
No, but this is Paul. I can't help but think how many strikes of violations we have against us over the.
Well, you're not alone, Paul. That's why Janelle asked us to talk about this. I think we had some of the same shock when we had our retreat last February. We are just working really hard in CMC to follow all of the copyright laws. It's very important to both myself and my other individual who works with AV. And that's why we've done all of the background research to find out. So it is mind-boggling. It's really not hard to stay in compliance, but I'm surprised at how much we have violated that in the past. So this is the coverage for the CVLI license that you're seeing on the screen now. Unlike the one license, or unlike the religious services exemption, which allows you only to use it in the course of worship, the CVLI license is one that allows you to use it in all arenas. So you can use it as part of sermons, or in part of services, in Sunday school, in ministry with children and youth. You can have movie nights. The only exception to movie nights with this license, and actually any of the licenses, you can't charge a fee. You can't use the license and do it as a fundraiser and charge a fee. So you can have a movie night, but it would have to be free to the public. There's some argument also, just so you're aware, and I don't know if this has changed. I know that when I was campus minister at Graceland, we had the CVLI license, and they did have a rule that said you could not advertise outside of your group. So you can't put posters up all in the public and say you're going to have a free viewing of this movie. Come see it. So this is meant for your gathered community or their friends. It's one thing if they share the word by mouth. All of these licenses, what they're attempting to do is to keep from taking money or marketability away from the owners of the work. So like if you're copying songs onto CDs, like many of us probably did, making mixtapes and then passing them out to friends, you're at least diminishing the ability of that artist to sell their product to other people because they don't need to buy it now. You've given them a free copy, although it be an illegal copy. So movie nights, again, you can have it, advertise it within your church to those who normally come in your doors. You can have them invite people, but you cannot advertise in the public. So when I was at Graceland and Campus Ministries, we could only advertise through our events. We could not put signs up around campus saying we were having a movie night. All of our people could tell whoever they wanted and invite a friend, and it was considered part, but that's the reason for that. So anyway, it has a pretty broad usage in terms of what you can do with the license. Here's the cost for the CVLI license. It is a little bit more expensive, but it's pretty extensive as to what it will use for when you figure out what it costs to go to a movie. So this does allow up to 99 people, and that's $305. These are, again, annual licenses. You will see that they do have a short-term license option, but that's for a single use. So if you plan on doing, say, more than one, if you want to have a couple of movie nights even during a year, it's most likely more beneficial for you, to use the full license, the full annual license. All right, we're getting pretty close. Hang in there. Here's the big thing. There is no video license, absolutely none. Not CVLI, nothing. There's not one available. And I've talked to many blanket license companies. There's none that covers the public performance of a YouTube video or a music video produced by the original artist. Let me tell you what that means. So we've talked about being able to have a streaming license. I'm going to be talking a little bit in a minute about the CCLI Streaming Plus license, which allows you to use the master recording. So say if I want to play something by Lionel Richie, that's just the first person that came to my mind. Don't know why. I do like Lionel Richie. If I want to play something by Lionel Richie, and Lionel Richie is a covered artist under the license that I hold, I am allowed to play that music, and with a Streaming Plus license, be able to play the music and stream it. What I am not allowed to do is to play a video of Lionel Richie singing the song. In that case, remember when I talked about the hymnal, we have copyrights and licenses for the words and for the tune. Then when we get into videos, we have other license holders. There's probably 4 or 5 license holders once we get to the production of a video, because you have, again, the composer, you have the author, you have the videographer, you have a variety of folks that are in that picture. It's very hard to get. So there's no blanket license that has been created that gets to all of those. So here's the rule. Don't play a video unless you created it. or it comes from the Community of Christ website, or it's approved, follows all the licenses and is in the Beyond the Walls. There are licenses that you can get for particular license. So a website that you might look at if you're looking for appropriate videos for worship. Now, they don't come from movies or from television shows, but worshiphousemedia.com is an example. And I can just put that here. So. Worshiphousemedia.com. You can go to sites like the skitguys.com. What I have found is that a number of Skit Guys skits are also available on Worship House Media. If you're looking specifically at a Skit Guys video that you want to use, they did some really nice Advent series. They've done some Lent series. I would check both sites because sometimes one is cheaper than the other. When you're using a site like Worship House Media or Skit Guys, what you want to make sure, well, if you're just using that in your worship space, you're not streaming, you're not recording, you're not doing anything like that, then it doesn't matter if it's on the site and you purchase it, you can use it in the context of your worship. If you are recording it for the purpose of posting it, or you are streaming your worship, you need to make sure to get one that includes a web license. I think for the most part, skitguys.com comes with web licenses for their videos, but that is not the case for all of the ones on Worship House Media. And they very clearly say when you put it in the cart, or when you go to select it, there's a button that you need to click that says include web license. There is no additional charge for the web license, but if you don't select that button, then you're just getting the video and you don't technically have the web license. Just because one exists, if you were challenged on that and you didn't have the proof that you got the web license, it could cause some issues. It's not a huge deal because you're choosing one with a web license. You might be able to say you forgot, you thought you clicked it, whatever, because again, there is no additional cost. So it's very easy to do, but you want to look for videos that include a web license. Other than that, videos are not usable. So this is the big crusher. And Paul mentioned all the times that we might have violated that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen YouTube videos in worship across the church. There is no permission, not even if you have a premium license for YouTube, that allows a public performance or showing of a YouTube video. YouTube, even though it's out there, even though a lot of people do it, it's meant for private use. So it is not meant for public use. So the answer, if anybody says, hey, I got a YouTube video, can we get permission to use it? In our case, the answer is no, because there is no license to cover it. All right, any question about that? That's the tough one. That's the toughest part there, because that's the one I think that is violated the most. All right, so we'll go back to our list, and we're going to now look at the CCLI license. CCLI is just like one license, but it covers a different batch of music. There is some crossover between the two, but remember, one license covers primarily hymns and sacred music, whereas CCLI covers predominantly contemporary Christian music. Now, I work with a couple of teenagers that do one of the podcasts for us for Project Zion Podcast, and they always laugh when I say contemporary Christian, because some of the things that are labeled contemporary Christian aren't very contemporary anymore. So, but what we're talking about is popular Christian music here. And so both of them have kind of their niche for what they cover. It depends on how much music you use. If your worship predominantly uses hymnody and doesn't really get into popular Christian music use, then you're probably okay just with a one license. If you use a mix, then you probably need to consider having both licenses. The thing also that they are similar in is that the one license in and of itself and the CCLI license in and of itself only cover reprint. And reprint means what? Copying or projecting. All right. Like one license, it only covers that. And what's different about and makes it, this is just Song Select is included. You'll see separate, see them listed separately on the CCLI website. But Song Select is kind of like the view piece that's on the CVLI license. It's also the search engine on one license. Song Select is just the engine that CCLI uses to search songs, producers, artists, etc. So, and it comes with it. There's no extra cost for CCLI. There are some add-ons to CCLI, just like there are for one license. So if you are using contemporary music, you like to use songs that are popular in contemporary worship or produced by say Vineyard Worship, that kind of thing. If they are included in the license, you want to use them, and you are streaming or posting your services online, you need a streaming license. Now, there are two different add-ons streaming license for CCLI. There is the streaming license, which simply allows you to play the music, so to sing your hymns online. That's like singing from the hymnal and being online. If you have the CCLI, you can put your lyrics on the projector. You can project those, and therefore then if you have the streaming license, you can basically take that basic worship service and now stream it online or post it on your website. If you want to play the music, now that would be the case if you have your own band or an accompanist and a soloist who are in the worship that are singing the music. You could still potentially sing the music that is covered by CCLI. If you want Lionel Richie to sing it, then you need the Streaming Plus license. Streaming Plus license is the only license of the ones that I've mentioned that allows you to use the master recording, which is the original recording by the original artist. Okay, so what we do in Chicago Mission Center and what I would suggest, we do use the Streaming Plus license. Again, there's no license that covers the usage of video. So if someone wants to use a song in worship, if they just want to have it playing in the background, say during the collection of the offering or the serving of communion, or for a quiet meditation, and they're not showing a video, it's just the audio, then you can do that without any problem. That is included with the use of the master recording. If you, however, want to have a lyric video that has the words coming up line by line or whatever as the song plays, you need to create your own lyric video to go with the music. And there are some websites and software. The one that I use, just for sharing with you guys, Canva, C-A-N-V-A, is a very user-friendly video production software. It's a website that you can go on. They have a variety of backgrounds. You can upload other backgrounds to the website and then put those to the audio of for the particular song that you want to use. So that way you've got permission, again, to project the lyrics. You've got permission to play the master recording, and you're creating your own video, which you have the right to use. All right. There is some additional cost, as you see here on this page. It's $84 for the streaming license for the year and $167 for the Streaming Plus license. So we're talking, several $100s. So you have to decide whether that's worth it to you, depending on how often you stream or how much of the content you want to put online. As Paul asked earlier, if you're just putting the sermons up and they don't include any artistic content from other creators, then you can do that without any of these licenses. You simply need the permission of the preacher. All right, I'm going to stop here. I've seen some things coming up in here. Is this a one or the other, or is a one and then the other as an upgrade? Emily, are you talking specifically about CCLI and its add-ons, or are you talking about one license versus CCLI? I'm not sure. I want to make sure that I answer that question.
I'm looking at the CCLI and it says streaming license plus 84, streaming plus license plus 167. So do I have to buy the 84 and then the 167, or it's a one or the other?
Yes, thank you. That is a one or the other. So you have the basic CCLI license, and then you get one add-on or the other. You would not need both. It just depends on how you plan to use it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Are the hymns from CCS piano accompaniment considered master recordings? They are considered master recordings. And that's a great question, one that I have not had anyone ask before. We have the implicit, if you have purchased the thumb drive with the recordings, you can use those. Because I have the streaming license, it hasn't come up because I can play master recordings. I will find out an answer to the question and get that to Janelle or Deb for you. It's a great question, Jeff and Carrie. I would assume that you would have to have the streaming license to play that for streaming. For use in your congregation, that is included without license. You can use those, but those are master recordings by the artist that performed them. All right, but I would need to check. I'd see if again, that question hasn't come up because we stream so much music that we needed the streaming license. So I'm not sure about whether or not I know Community of Christ gives us the right to use it. I'm not sure if we have the right to stream it without a separate license. So, all right. Moving on. I think I mentioned this earlier. I did say that I would come back to it. This is where the idea, again, of using the exact copy is very important. Lots of the hymnody and songs that you'll find out there have multiple versions. Other people have done covers of them, especially older songs. So you just need to make sure that the version that you want to play in your worship or stream in your worship in this case is the same one that is listed in the covered versions. We've had some situations where it wasn't covered and we had to go back to the original owner to get permission to use them. All right. So the last two, we're not going to cover the rehearsal license. This would be, if you want to talk about that separate, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. That really is covering, if you have bands that are playing the songs, the cover music, you can get a rehearsal license that allows you to, reprint the chord charts and stuff like that you need, materials for a band to operate, but it would not be necessary for the use of regular worship. So we're going to skip down to the Perform Music license and the Worship Cast license. These are, as I said before, CVLI, the video license, and these two licenses are not actually owned by CCLI, but they are accessible through the CCLI page. They are owned by CCS, which is Contemporary Christian Solutions, Christian Copyright Solutions, I'm sorry, Christian Copyright Solutions. The first one, again, there's the Perform Music license and the Worship Cast license. And these are going to be very similar to CCLI and CCLI Streaming Plus. The difference between Perform Music and WorshipCast music licenses are that these are the licenses that allow you to do them outside of the worship setting. It covers also a variety of secular as well as Christian music, and would open you to use the music in all different settings outside of worship. All right, so Perform Music is similar to the CCLI. Perform Music is simply a reprint license. Again, it does increase the breadth of songs that are covered, and it does allow you to use it outside of worship. WorshipCast is like the Streaming Plus. That's what allows you to use this expanded list of songs through a streaming service or post it online. And just so you get an idea of cost, they're kind of expensive, but they're also fairly expansive. So this does give, it doesn't have a smaller group setting. The lowest setting is 1 to 199, and that's $297 for the year. It goes up from that, of course. And then we have the WorshipCast license. This is, again, the equivalent of the CCLI Streaming Plus license, and that is $342. So to be able to use it in outdoor concert settings, that kinds of stuff all over the place, it gets pretty expensive. I don't know that most of our folks need these licenses, but I wanted you to be aware that they are there. All right. Let me go here and stop share. That is all of the information that I have to share with you, but I would take any questions that you might have. See if we can answer those now that it's all said and done. If you're not shell-shocked with all of the the rules, and again, I don't want you to be too concerned about that. It is fairly user-friendly to do it the right way, and I believe that it is worth it for us to do it the right way in line with our enduring principle of the worth of all persons, and I just think it's the right thing for us to do. So I can't tell you what you have to do. I'll leave that to your mission center president, and to your conscience. Yeah, Deb.
I would just see, am I unmuted? Just
Yeah.
to point out about the reporting issue to one, we use one license mostly. Very rarely do I report to CCLI, which probably should some, but it's very, very easy to do. And I find it easier to do every week. The worship planner, just get in there because you just type in, you pull up Community of Christ Sings, you punch in the number, and you report the tune and the or whatever is listed there. It takes some time at all. And it's important also to remember that even those hymns written by Community of Christ members like Dick Howard and Barbara Howard and all of those, to report those if they're on that list, because the church gets royalties. Yes. Or the people do. I don't know what, but we do get credit for that. So it's extremely important to do that. So.
That brought up one other thing, and kind of goes along with Paul's original question about posting on Facebook or YouTube. If you're going to post those, you have the license, be real sure to make sure that your licensing numbers are included in the documentation. So either putting in subtitles on your video, putting it in your description, and you want to include both your CCLI license and your Streaming Plus license numbers. It's important. It's not enough to just have them. As I understand it in my conversations with CCLI and One License, those things need to be put. So even if you're doing a slideshow during your worship, it's important to put your license either at the beginning. And so what I typically do with the software that we use, there's a title slide for the hymn, and where I put the title of the hymn, and then the words and the music and the copyright information, and then a used with permission and the list of licenses that we hold. And that's at the beginning of every hymn that we have gotten approval to use. So really important that you make
I have a-
that evident.
I have
Sorry,
a question. We produce PowerPoints for the hymns every week, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've been saving a list of those so that I save all of the ones that are produced with the copyright information on it. Is there a way to be able to share those PowerPoints so people could just slip in their own license numbers rather than everybody having to produce hymns or PowerPoints for everybody? Or is that just not, we've never done it because I don't know if that's acceptable.
Yes, as long as the person that you're sharing it with also holds the license. Each location needs to have a license. So
Right, they'd have to put in their own license.
but they put in their own license number, so that would be fine. And I would what we found to be the best way is doing it through through a cloud source, just easy, either OneDrive.
Like a OneDrive or something?
Yeah, if you use share through OneDrive. So I have created a file for all of our presiders who preside for the Chicago Mission Center Sunday. And I have all of that shared on OneDrive so that everybody can access it from their location, and if necessary, change any numbers that are on them.
Perfect, because I'm willing to do that. I don't know how many congregations have them, but I know I have a couple hundred songs already on PowerPoints that could be easily shared.
No use recreating the wheel, right? Okay, Jim, you got a question?
Okay, there's a couple.
Yep. So a couple questions came to mind. One, I just wanted to clarify that Zoom is considered streaming.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Zoom is considered streaming. Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter whether you're sharing a screen on Zoom or pointing a camera at a TV or a projector, that counts as the same thing in terms of projecting and streaming the lyrics.
That is correct. If you're broadcasting across the internet in any way, you are streaming.
Okay. I had another question, but now I got to think about it again. So I'll let someone else.
All right. Well, raise your hand again. I'm going to go on to Frank, and then you can ask your question. Sure. Frank.
My question is about pictures, images, bitmaps, PNG files, that you want to download and put on your PowerPoint slides. You have to be careful with that because not all of those are free to use. I always pull up a filter and choose, was it common?
Creative Commons license?
Thank you. Creative Commons license.
That's a great point, Frank. And I apologize. I had intended on putting, that's a significant piece not to have put in the presentation. So I apologize. And maybe I can add that, just send some information to go along with the other. So Frank is absolutely right. When we're talking about creative work, we're really, that includes any artwork. So we need to be really, really careful. What I would suggest, so one really good source, there are a couple of sites. So Pixel, Pixel.com, PixHere, but an easy way to get to them that I have found, if you go to Google Advanced Image Search, specifically Advanced Image Search, let me share my screen and I'll pull that up so I can show you. Let me real quick, let's see, get back down here to share. And screen 2, there it is. Okay. So I have gone here to Advanced Image Search, Google, on google.com. Look for Advanced Image Search. Put in, you can put in anything. You can put in Christmas. I'm just going to put in Christmas. All right. Now the way I did it, I'm going to get every picture online with Google. What I need to do here, you're going to go down to the bottom. I have found that I just for ease, I just go and look for only JPEG files. You can, if you're familiar with it, some things, depending on the media that you have or the software that you have, might or might not enter easily. JPEG seems to be pretty universal. So I look for JPEG files, and then the last line here, user rights, you want to select Creative Commons license. Now, when I advance search it, it's going to limit just those things that are licensable. And you'll see in the corner of every page, of every picture, licensable. Now, what I have learned through time is, and so all of these are licensable. And Creative Commons license, if you're not familiar with it, has also several levels. So there's Creative Commons, so there's public domain. There might be things on here that are just public domain and don't require any kind of attribution or anything. So I'm going to just pick one, and I'm going to say Sackett's Harbor. I can go, this is licensable. If I choose this, it's going to come up over here. And in that, I can look at the license details for this particular picture if I'm wanting to use it. This is a CC0 1.0 universal, no copyright, so there's no attribution needed. That would be a public domain picture. That would be a public domain picture, and you don't have to give any attribution. You're free to use that. What I would typically do, just to be safe, because I have found that there are a lot of pirates in this particular arena with things. So I might go to the original site and find it, and I can get the image or open image in a new tab. I want to see if I can find a name. So if I go to save image as here, when it comes up, it's going to give me the name that file is named. Now I'm seeing that it says raw pixel, which is going to be a clue for me that is probably a free picture. But I'm going to take the name of that picture by its title, and I'm going to go to another site, just open a new page, and copy that in there. And see if that comes up under a paid site. Sometimes now with advanced software, people can take pictures that are owned by other folks and find a way to get rid of the watermark and then post it on a free page. So you just, it's just being safe. Some of the sites I've grown pretty confident with, and so I might not double check. But if I go back to this page here, I got to go all the way back to here. I can close this and look. What I have learned that there are, if you get it from sites like Flickr. Pictures that are on Flickr they typically have common consent licenses associated with them, but they will require that you give attribution to the original artist. So what I would do, and I'm trying to find one, of course, on Christmas, there's not going to be one from Flickr. But here, I'll go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is another site that typically requires attribution. You are free to share, adapt, but this is the following terms. You need to give attribution, and if you remix or transform, you need to show where the license came from. So I know that I need to give attribution. I go back to the original page, and here I will find the information about who owns the picture. On Flickr, it will just take you to the individual artist's page, and you just simply need to say picture by whoever the artist is. But if you go to certain sites, like here is one, this one is from Pixhere, Pxhere, and that is typically a public domain site. Raw Pixel is another one, and you kind of learn that if you're using them regularly. So as Frank said, you just want to be careful. There are thousands and thousands of pictures that are available for use. And some of them, again, are just as simple as saying, by Jim Jones on Flickr. And that way, if there's a person interested in seeing the picture, they can go back and find the original artist. It's a very, very good point. I appreciate, Frank, you bringing that up, because pictures are another thing that we tend to use. We just want to be careful. Again, there's plenty to choose from without having to violate copyright. All right, Jim, did you think of your second question?
Yes, I remember. It has to do with the spreadsheet you provided originally about the Community Christ Sings and the
Yes.
license information related there. We have occasionally had people who want to refer to older Hymns of the Saints songs. Is there a similar spreadsheet for Hymns of the Saints and older Community of Christ hymn books that might share licensing related information for those?
I am not familiar with a similar spreadsheet, but that is something that I can ask and provide the information for later use. It would be helpful. I don't think I have an older hymnal here. I would check and see. That was a wonderful thing that they did by putting that in the Community of Christ Sings. But I'm not sure that anybody did that work previously on previous hymn committees.
Okay.
I will check. Great question. Anybody else? More information than you ever wanted about copyrights?
There is,
Yeah, Jeff and Carrie.
there's a question in the chats.
Are Beyond the Walls videos considered master recordings? They would be in terms of a license, yes. Yes. As far as I understand, they would be. So, but if you're broadcasting them, now if you're using them in your worship and you have permission to use those in your worship, then you're okay. Because those are performed by Beyond the Walls, and they have given permission either by Center Place Singers or Beyond the Walls Choir or Lamoni Heartland. So if they're there, those artists have given permission to use them. You still need to have the license to project or to stream them.
Right. So if we have the CCLI Streaming Plus license, we'd be good. So what is the way to download them so that you're not streaming by the URL? Because I remember you showing us that at SALT.
The way to download what?
The Beyond the Walls recordings, rather than having like the streaming from the URL.
Right. So thanks, Carrie. That is a very important thing, because depending on your broadband, I would recommend if you are streaming, it is always better to pull it off and play the recording through your upload rather than trying to have your broadcast and the internet running with a video on it. So Carrie, that is one of those things that I said is getting more and more difficult with YouTube. Because I've had some trouble getting them. Let me just see. Let me try one before I recommend it and see if the one that I have used is still working. Let's see. I gotta search Beyond the Wall. And thank you, Lamoni Heartland, for, I think, creating that curated list. It's so helpful. Whoever did that. It says Lamoni Heartland. That has been helpful on so many occasions to get a quick glance. So let me pull one up here. Skip that. pause that. So it is an unsupported video platform to go directly. Now, let me see. Sorry for the downtime. like I said, I just want to see if, I don't want to send you in the wrong direction. It looks like they have now gotten rid of their free version. I will, the guy who works with me in AV, I will ask him if he has found something that is working, but this is not, the one that I was using was 4K Video Downloader Plus. They had a free version, but they do not have that available anymore. I haven't pulled one in a while. So I'll need to do a little, and it's a trial and error thing where I have looked online to find software that will do a free video download. Of course, I'm only downloading videos that I have permission to download, and the YouTube Premium is quite expensive for the limited time, that amount of time that we use it. I'm going to be having a conversation with John Hamer pretty soon for a podcast. So it's on my list to ask him if that can be made available on a thumb drive again, just so people have access to purchase those for a minimal fee or whatever, to get permission and have them put in a place where they are accessible. So I'm sorry, Carrie, I don't have a better answer for you, but the 4K Plus is not working now. All right, Frank, you got a question?
No,
Nope.
I just wanted to share. I use FreeMake Downloader on my PC to download from YouTube. It's free, open source.
What was it called?
FreeMake Downloader.
Okay.
They also have a FreeMake video converter, to where you can take a video and you can convert it to like a WAV file. You might want to check those out.
All right, I'm doing that real quick to see if I can get this one to download. And I assume that you have done that with the Beyond the Walls, Frank?
Yep. That's what I use when I download
Great.
from YouTube the Beyond the Walls.
Wonderful. So, Carrie, that might be an answer. FreeMake Video Downloader. Freemake.com. I got to it very quickly. Taking it a second to load, but. And boy, I'm putting a lot of trust in you, Frank, because I'm just downloading that to my computer without checking it out. I hope it's safe. If you've done it and not had problems, I'm trusting you.
The only thing is that I've encountered is that periodically I'll have a difficulty downloading a video. So then all I do is I just reinstall. You know, I go out and get the latest FreeMake video downloader, install over the top of it, and boom, I'm good to go for quite a while.
Well, I'm not getting it. It's not accepting my URL, but it's telling me there's no links in my clipboard, but there is. All right. Anyway, I
Frank,
trust that it works. I don't want to waste time to be working on that, but I'm going to try it out. So
Blake,
somebody else?
there's another question up here from Jim.
Okay.
Does each congregation have to purchase these licenses, or may we join a mission center umbrella? We were wondering about that, as well as, is there some
And-
way we can minimize costs for congregations, or do we have to have them all separate?
I wish it were the case. We are able to do it in Chicago Mission Center because we are doing it we are doing one worship, CMC Sunday. But if the congregations are having separate worship, they all have to have their own license.
Okay.
That's a good question, Jim. But yeah, unfortunately, there isn't a way, those licenses are not shareable unless it's a joint worship together. So if you have a sister congregation and together you're worshiping in 2 locations, but it's one worship, which is what we are technically doing with 5 congregations, then you need individual licenses. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you for being here tonight. If you have any additional questions, you let Janelle or Deb know. My email address, I'll put it here in the chat. It's very easy, bsmith@seaofchrist.org. You're welcome to write to me and I'll answer the questions if I can, or find an answer for you if I can't.
Thank you,
Otherwise,
Blake.
Turn it back over to you, Janelle.
Thank you, Blake. This has been great. I'm really glad that you didn't do a pop quiz at the end. 'Cause
No. I'm not that mean.
I
Now,
suspect,
Becky, you're going to have to take a quiz. Becky has to take a quiz. That's right.
I suspect that we might be viewing this again just to get a little more information. So thank you so much. Just wonderful.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Glad to
Blake
help in
for
any way I
that.
can.
And Blake, for that, you're going to have to take one of my quizzes.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, thanks again. I enjoyed it, and I'll if more is needed, I'll send some additional information on the things that I've made notes on, and that might have gotten left out.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Blake. And thank you everyone else for tuning in and working hard to do the right thing. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Have a good evening.
I was about to close out, but it just closes out. I guess if everybody's ready to go. Since I'm the host, if I go away, everybody goes away.
True.
All right. I'm going to do that.
That's fine. That's fine. Thanks.